This week, human revolution is upon you. As we stand naked in Scorpio, we're downloading a ceasefire resolution with our highest self. And Mercury is retrograde. We'll have all that and more for this week's Zodiac weather and your soul horoscopes coming up. Hello and welcome to Namaste Today, soul horoscopes and your Zodiac weather. My name is Sensei Christopher Witecki. I'm the Sensei to Serious Joy. I'm here to help you through the process of ascension, and this will be my 20th year come January. Yay me. A little housekeeping. If you're watching on YouTube, our premium channel, please be kind and do subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell button so you're notified. And if you don't mind, please like this video so the algorithm will help us along the way. And if you're watching on another platform, we ask the same. Please leave a comment. That's the best thing to do. Tell us what we could do to improve the show. We're always helpful and grateful for your feedback. Well, friends, we've got a lot going on. We've got what I call the human revolution. This is going to be what I also call the New World Order, all these buzz terms, and I have a lot of explanation. But first, let's take a look at the week's moods and your Zodiac weather.
Thanks, Sensei. This Zodiac weather report covers from Saturday, November 1st to Friday, November 7th, 2025, and is proudly sponsored by Nashville Colon Care. Michele R. Jones, the founder of Nashville Colon Care, is on a mission to restore digestive health as a quantum embodiment healer. Learn more about Michele and her mission at NashvilleColonCare.com. Looking ahead at your weekend forecast, now that we know what to protect, we start to tweak those boundaries on Saturday in order for it to turn into habit on Sunday. Let's drill down. On Saturday, it's chilly and misty as Step 9 or Mars energy rules the day, putting a little pep in this step into changing boundaries, but with yourself. A moon in Pisces can offer either compassion in the moment or a replay of the sad story. To move out and up, intend that I protect change, as today I am following through with commitments made to myself. On Sunday, it's sunny and holding as Step 10 asks to hold the line of new boundaries that were initiated yesterday. The root intention is I protect my values, so take only what is wanted and affirm that I am emotionally maturing to protect ground. A moon moving from late Pisces into Aries helps out by bringing that compassion and courage to stand firm. Taking a look at the upcoming week, we have a new story revealing itself on Tuesday, just in time for a breakthrough full moon in Taurus on Wednesday. The week finishes with Friday being a rest day to recover and to tune in even tighter to the heart's wishes. So let's take a peek. On Monday, it's sunny and strong as 11 Scorpio is feeling firm in a new foundation. Just take the good with the bad as you intend that I protect my alignment. Affirm today that I love myself and I love my life as a moon in Aries stands ready with energy to burn, so focus on the positive. Later that evening, Mars trines Neptune retrograde at 29 Pisces, softening irritation from the day but can lead to lots of confusion. Act on your alignment before pushing any agenda. Tuesday is cloudy with storms as Step 12 Scorpio offers the curiosity to turn a corner to see a whole new horizon. Intend that I protect discovery as a moon growing to fullness in late Aries into Taurus brings courage to see the new and the stamina to build. Affirm that I am anticipating karmic evolution and opening to soul support as the sky lights up when Mars ingresses into Sagittarius and immediately opposes Uranus at 0 Gemini, holding space for a completely new operating system altogether. Just be advised so is everyone else. Respond to any possible triggers internally first and protect those new transmissions. Wednesday is raining and sheltering, bringing in a breakdown to breakthrough in relation to how high the ceiling is believed to be for your heart. To go higher, intend that I protect my transformation, as a full moon in Taurus early in the morning asks for what the heart can believe in. Affirm that I am holding space to innovate my response, as seas may be choppy in order to hone that new version of you. Remember, what you be is what comes. Thursday is cloudy and distinct, dividing the light from the dark and giving understanding on where to direct those next steps. Intend that I protect my freedom as you affirm that I am understanding new lines that protect my heart. Chances are those lines will be crystal clear as the moon shifts from Taurus to Gemini, and also at 5:39 p.m. when Venus enters Scorpio. Friday is cloudy and swirling as 15 Scorpio offers a pause for contemplation of the past week. A moon in Gemini brings an opportunity to chew on what may or may not be serving the heart's wishes, so intend that I protect peace today as you affirm that I am protecting the line by being mindful of the heart. Just in time, too, as the lead innovator Uranus backs into the sign of Taurus for his last tour of duty. Prepare for the materialization of what that line is. An hour later, Venus squares Pluto at 1 degree, opening and standing by the need to take self-love to heart. So this week is action-packed with a lot of static. So be warned and be advised to take time to listen to the heart and protect that first in order to know which way to point those toes. Back to you, Sensei.
Welcome back, friends. Well, it looks like all the signs are part of the headlines this week. That's because this week's title is The Human Re-Evolution. This has been something in the making, I think, for thousands of years, frankly, that one day humans would wake up and start to re-evolve themselves as they need and see fit. And I'm happy to say it looks like it's actually starting to begin to happen this week. It's because we're with the sun in Scorpio. The sun in Scorpio is where our heart makes new line distinctions, where you make a little tiny little line between this and that, and you start to separate from things that doesn't serve you. You start to, let go of things that certainly is not good for you. And you also start to open up. You start to maybe be a little more open-minded and let things in that you normally would not let in. So it's that time of Scorpio of intimacy and into me I see. And so this week we'll be making some cuts, and I'll be talking about for each of the 12 signs where you will be making those cuts. We're also talking about Earth, and we're talking about Taurus. When the sun's in Scorpio, the Earth is in Taurus. That means as we make cuts, we create new lands, maybe new lands with new features. Maybe they have new boundaries. We basically create new life when we make those cuts. We're forced to create that new life. And so it'll be a very fertile period as well with the sun in Taurus. In fact, at one point, the universe is going to basically say it stands by us or stands with us. And I'll talk about what that is later on. And then lastly, I want to talk about this week in the show, Mercury going into Sagittarius. Everyone's going to be philosophical and have an opinion starting this week. We'll talk about how that affects you and it'll affect your life coming up.
I help people to kind of get in touch with their gut, which some people believe is your first brain now, right?
Right.
And what the coolest part about what I do is that it's not like I sell anybody on anything. Like, people come to me because they know that they need to get to me, either for higher self work, colon hydrotherapy work, how to have like living food in your world, how to create your purpose, how to tap your intuition, how to align chakras, systemic like energy moving through the body. I take care of people to help them to realign their integrity within themselves for their mind, body, and spirit. And the integrity is really the right relationship. It's not like a moral judgment or anything. It's just right relationship. And I feel like a lot of people in this world know that they're not in right relationship and aren't always sure how to get back into it.
Are you looking for inspiration to grow your conscious business? Sears Joy's Board of Light is a sacred alliance of lightworkers, visionaries, and spiritual leaders dedicated to awakening conscious leadership.
Our next lineup of guests is ready to take you on that journey of spiritual enlightenment. Next quarter guests include Sofia Del Gigante, branding specialist, founder of Rising Creative Studio, beginning in November. Then in December, join us for Jillian McKenzie, spiritual strategist and soul project manager. In January, start your new year off right with Melly Garcia, creative relaunch BFF.
Don't miss this profound lineup of wisdom. Join now for only $250 per year and be a part of the enlightened professional re-evolution. What are you waiting for?
You started your business for freedom, but somewhere along the way, it turned into chaos. You're trying to fit your unique vision into someone else's blueprint, and it's leaving you feeling overwhelmed and second-guessing your every move. That's exactly why we created From Chaos to Clarity, your 12-week live business intensive. We give you the courage to claim your voice, the clarity to build your unique framework, and the conviction to lead your business your way. You'll get live power hours to hone your strategy and weekly accountability sprints to make sure the work actually gets done. Stop following, start building. You don't need to do it all alone. Clarity is closer than you think.
Now, what this comes down to is this: the sun in Scorpio. For this entire month so far in Scorpio, your heart is making new choices. And we have a lot of evidence in. We have a lot of cycles that have come to completion, long cycles that have come to completion, such as Neptune recently and Saturn. And of course, we have Uranus who's come to a new sign as well. And Pluto has been in Aquarius just for a minute. So this is all new stuff going on. And because Scorpio is the line, it's the final line. It's the line between everything, life, death, everything. This is the moment you must actually do the transition, where you actually cut the cord or make the leap for what you have to do. So we'll be talking about this for each of 12 signs, that you yourself are going to cut some cords, but that this full moon eclipse in Taurus is not only magical because it's in that 4, helping us to where we belong, but it's magical because it's 2 out of 6 that we'll have in a row going into the new year. So it's a powerful eclipse indeed. And I think we're all going to be feeling it in a big, big way. Lastly, we'll talk just about a trine going on with Venus and Mars. Mars is now in Sagittarius. That means we're all going to get philosophical and tell each other what to think. And let's begin this re-evolution with the Aries. Aries, you in Scorpio are a person who is now going to draw some deep lines. And believe it or not, Aries doesn't draw lines very often. They usually just roll over you, or they back up and leave, or they zip off. But they don't usually have to go that line drawing scenario. They want you to respect theirs, and you respect theirs, and they're fine. Everyone's happy on all sides. But now there's a problem. The problem is that these boundaries that you have drawn were for the old age. And you've been sticking to these pretty well as well, I have to say, which is why you are so strong. You don't change it all the time. Well, now it's time to. This week, as the sun goes from step 9 to step 15 Scorpio, your heart is going to make some changes about where you draw the line with yourself. First of all, where will you enforce the line? That's the question. Will you enforce it? Sometimes you don't. And if you do enforce it, well, then will you enforce this next group of lines, which is probably designed for when your child is actually in public schools or whatever. It's still very important, even if it's a kid, you're doing it. Now, if it's an adult and yourself and you're doing this is extremely important, because Scorpios have sort of been living in the moment, which is a good thing. That's what they want to do. They're good performers in that moment. But they've also forgotten, I think, to bring some of the context into what they do. So Scorpios are giving themselves surgery this week, but I don't know if they know what they're doing. Energetically, you have to listen to it. You have to listen to your heart. What's happening literally for you is this is an energetic shifting of really where you draw lines in general, first and foremost. So where's the line going to be for you and someone else, you and something else? Where will the lines of comfort zone be in the future? How do you predict that to happen? Listening to your feelings for evidence as to whether or not you do draw the line here or there. And then actually launching it and giving it a try. So we'll beta test it this week with the eclipse. And Mars in Sagittarius will then mean that you now have to start a new philosophy. So in other words, you can have this brand new operating system, says the universe. You can cut your cords and you can start to put your life purpose into motion. But you got to be careful, because when your ego gets into that Sagittarius, you tend to be a little preachy and not so much teachy. And that's what we need. We need some teachy, not preachy from the Aries and Aries risings. Otherwise, the full moon in Taurus for you is going to be a major turning point in wealth. That's right. The universe is heavily invested in you raising your prices. And it's been a little difficult because everyone had something going on, right, with this particular year. But this full moon is saying it's time to let go of your old values, quit lowballing it, quit going cheap on yourself, go ahead and raise those standards, raise those prices. And as a result, this full moon means you'll start to raise actual new capital. I predict that you should see some money come in really by the second week of December. And now I'm talking about Christmas either. All right, Aries, we'll see you then. And now for the Taurus. Taurus, energetically, this is your nth birthday period. Happy nth birthday to you. I know I'm feeling it as well. This is the part of the year where you are actually looking at yourself and how you look at yourself and determine whether or not you are a good friend or a good staff or a good whatever you are to yourself. And you use Scorpio to make these predictions and these lines. And so that means it's kind of sharp time of the year. This is where you are not yourself, where you're doing cutting. That's what it's about. You cut away from things in Scorpio. In your birthday, you build and bring things together, which is what Tauruses do. So Tauruses love to build and bring things together. Don't always love to throw it away or cut it away. And so that is part of it. But really what you're doing is cutting it out. When we say that, we're talking about cutting out certain weird behavior you have with your own feelings and your own boundaries with yourself. So you yourself looking at your life going, why does this always happen? And then you having an extra boundary on top of that. And so what's happened is Tauruses have tended to I think, make too many boundaries in their consciousness, and too many boundaries of where to draw the line. And as a result, they haven't been quite clear on what goes with what. So it started simple, this transit. Where's the line with you in your me ridge? That's where we started as Tauruses, getting really sharp on that in the first few days. Last week, it blended from that into our day-to-day life. Hopefully, you decided to protect what you loved and throw away what you don't love. That's it. And those are things, that's a simple procedure you can do to make this sort of audit. Now, what's happening with the full moon is going to be really the birth of a new character, that you yourself are going to realize that you're not the old person you used to be. You're not treating yourself that way anymore. So why are you going under those terms or labels or whatever it is that you're using? It's time to now sort of revamp yourself in the public. Now, I do think that Tauruses, if they're single, they are on board for finding partnerships coming up. A lot of this has to do with the ending of the Pisces stuff and going into their 12th house with Aries. So I think Tauruses are going to be dreaming a lot and trying to make those dreams become a reality. And it's any second now. So ultimately, what you want to do is you want to be clear, Mr. Taurus, on those boundaries with yourself, and do not waver on them. And be somewhat strong still on the character you put out there, and see that it's now changed for this new reality. But then at the last moment too, be mindful of your heart, because Mercury in Sagittarius means that now you're going to be working on very close, heartfelt issues. Your inner child wants to come out and play. Probably very excited that you're in this TV studio doing all sorts of fun stuff. And so just make sure to keep your inner child with you at all times. I think you'll draw the boundaries to be perfect for you and perfect for someone else. And now on to the Geminis. Geminis, you are in an interesting spot, I have to say. I would have thought that with Jupiter in your sign last year, you'd have grown a lot larger energetically in your mind, but you've stayed very focused on certain details. And now the universe is putting even more pressure on you. And this week is some of the biggest. First of all, the sun in Scorpio for you has to do with your daily life. So you live a life that's very, very much controlled, actually. Geminis are very controlling as far as who they touch or don't touch anyone, or, just all the ins and outs of like living in a city versus the country. Just they kind of know all the little things necessary to live in that spot, even though they don't want to aspire usually to go down the same path as their parents. It's kind of interesting how they do that. But the black and white you are used to since childhood, ultimately, is in essence how you end up facing all of life. That you say, my life is going to be based on this and not this, this and not that. And so you end up crafting a very sharp, sharp life that in time puts you into your own cage. And that's where you are right now. Geminis have sort of fallen into their own cage. And yes, it's held up by your mind. And you could, learn how to just turn your mind off and go that way. But you wouldn't maybe have the discipline when things bad come up or things hard come up that you weren't preparing for. So today is a great time for that example. Now, energetically, the sun in Scorpio means it's new cuts, it's new changes for you when it comes to daily life. Just make some cuts, work how you work, how you live in the body, how you, even launder your clothes. And then after you have that understanding of those changes, then we go into the higher forms of yourself, which is, okay, with the moon full in Taurus, how are you going to have the faith necessary to make the biggest change of all, which is the final change in the final weeks of this? And this might be a big, big change this year, by the way. You might be, moving to another country, changing industries, just moving away from what is most secure and familiar to you, all sorts of things. But it is necessary, says the full moon. This is going to bring your new salary. It's going to bring your new colleagues. It's going to bring you to new places in the world. And from where you're standing, it's only going up, basically. The elevator is going up. So the full moon in Taurus will be this moment where you ultimately have tremendous great faith. You'll just simply be fearless during that full moon. And it's going to give you the strength necessary to make the call and the dedication to go ahead and face whatever boogeyman's in that house and to let your true self come out pretty much shiny, squeaky clean. So I think it's going to be this time. But one last thing I will say, Gemini, and that is the emotional part. Things are getting more emotional for Geminis. And I have noticed that you all are not paying attention to your emotions. Now it's going to get even bumpier if you don't. This is the week where be mindful of your feelings. You have all the tools and tend to nurture yourself up, not down. Cancer. Cancers, you're making some big changes. We talked about it every week, but this one might be the largest. That's because you are focusing now on your personal dreams. The sun in Scorpio is where you are when it comes to your inner child. And funny enough, a lot of good Cancers are making good parents because somewhere in their childhood, they adopted their own brothers and sisters and started raising the whole family. Very common, actually. So by the time you become an adult, now you want to go through your teenage issues, right? So Cancers can sometimes learn and grow inside out, where they become an adult first and then learn how to be a kid second. If that's the case, don't worry. You'll just have to play and you'll figure it out. It's not a hard one to do. Now, that said, we are moving forward for all you Cancers out there. because it is time for you to have personal dreams come true. You're ready for it. You wanted it your whole life. You always thought every one of those relationships would end up being that way, but it unfortunately was not. They were teaching relationships. So they came and went, and they were so kind and simple. Now you'll actually start to draw on people who are very attracted and also who you piss off. And so now you're at a time where it's time to think boundaries on a whole nother level. And for you, this level has only been just daily life, but really it's about the energy you put out that you want to be received. It's time to create a new daily reality with the sun going on with this stuff by drawing boundaries. But what's going to happen with the full moon is you're going to walk away with a new faith in yourself. So in the beginning of this transit, you're drawing lines about what you will and won't do in life, what's possible, what's not possible, setting the expectations of all your other teammates for you and what you'll do for them. And then we go into this full moon in Taurus this week, which will mean you'll be full of yourself in the house of faith. Now, usually this is a pretty good transit when I go through it myself, because it really is the point where you've cleared most of your stuff, according to this, our tables. So I'm suspecting this will not be any more of that. You might have to hold up someone else's hair up, whatnot, but I don't think you'll be stuck there yourself. I do think that when you come out of this, though, you're going to have tremendous faith in your heart, and you want to memorize that and try to keep it as close as you can to your human body. That said, when we move to the following week, we'll work on techniques of how to keep yourself nurtured and happy. And then there's the Leos. Leo, you are going to be changing your home, family, and foundation. In fact, you could say that Leos are going to come from another home or a better home than you did when it once was a castle. What you're really going to manifest is new career direction. You're one out there in the world to do some changes. We need leadership. We need inspiration. And up until now, you haven't really been ready for prime time, but you will now. That's because the sun in Scorpio for you is nurturing yourself on a new level. Many Leos that I meet are actually reincarnated royalty. Seriously, you're very popular or part of a big family, and you literally were taken care of in your past life. And so a lot of you have had to learn to do what all of your servants had done for you and been at your own service all this time. And I have to say, Leos are fine with that type of thing. They don't want to be needy by nature, but you now have reached that point where it's time to draw the line and do it. So you're drawing lines, first of all, with yourself, where your own feelings can go too far, or where you don't go far enough with compassion. Then your feelings about other people. Sometimes you're projecting your feelings, don't need to be. Sometimes you are listening to them and having lots of wisdom come through you. Sometimes you're ignoring your feelings and you're not getting the signal. So mastering that path. But then there's the real master part of the path, which will be to master your feelings altogether. To basically find yourself a way to always be there for yourself, always feel grounded no matter where you are, whether you're at home or not at home. Now, that particular transit of a new home apexes with a full moon at 13 degrees Taurus. That full moon says it's time to take your career up a notch. Now, you've been ready for this, but you haven't really been ready as of this week. Things got worse timing, right? But I want you to know you have a couple of weeks to do this. There will be one full moon that says, hey, Tauruses, go create more, create higher. We want chocolate milk in the cow, that kind of thing. But at the same time, it may take time to do it. So it's about the idea and putting your feelings behind it, more so about achievement. But I do think that whatever you come up with is going to be something that you will achieve. Then there's always the Virgos. Virgo, you are in a powerful change, a change of mind, actually. The sun in Scorpio for you is how you manage your mind. Your mind is very black and white. It's true. I never really have survived an argument with the Virgo. I just don't have the energy to do it. But you have this very articulate, very sharp mind that quite often does go to the dark side when it comes to yourself. You do assume the worst and sometimes fall down rabbit holes that you've created in that sense. But when things are dark or harsh, it's not having you around because you actually are bright light. What this comes down to literally is that you have certain boundaries in your mind that need to change. Your mind has been open to some things and not open to others. And really you should look at both of those with real good scrutiny. You're going to feel tonight, I think, automatically that you might want to lock one or two of those doors for certain purposes that who knows why. But whatever the case is, this is an opportunity from the universe to make amends, to put things on the right channel. And so if you owe them an apology or you want to make them a pie, I would say go for it 100%. Now, what's happening in the background is that you are ultimately now drawing new lines with what you say and what you don't say. And you have a tendency to have to say it all because you think that everyone has to hear it all and understand it like you do. We don't care to understand it like you do. That's your job. All we need to know is where the line is. All right. And so when you do that, you're going to find that your mind becomes a lot more sophisticated and that your message also becomes a bit more sophisticated as well. In fact, with the Earth being full, the full moon in Earth being full at step 13, this will be an opportunity for you emotionally to start to really believe in some of your theories. And that's what Virgos do. They analyze, and they create their theories into beliefs. So I would say that after this little momentary bump of shifting between households and daily life, get into a nice writing routine where it's nice and easy paced, and see what you don't download about the future. Should be pretty interesting. And then there's the Libras. Libra, you are working now on soul capital. That's money if you don't know. And that's what you use, Scorpio, is to rule your money. So I've been on that side. I mean, I think Libras always know exactly what you owe them down to the penny. So you use that sharpness, but you've actually judged yourself out of situations where you maybe have put yourself into ones where you're not being paid what you deserve because you've been so concerned about where the line wasn't, right? So Sun and Scorpio for you is really starting to draw lines about what you've earned and what you haven't earned, like what you have demonstrated and shown people and what you haven't demonstrated or shown. And I think you're going to find that your lesson now is to probably listen to certain people that are coming into your life, because everyone's being prepared now for a big, bright future. And Sagittarius is actually, funny enough, they don't have a real clue on what they're going to do next. And when I interview them, they don't know. I know it goes back to Cowboys and Indians. I know it goes back to inner child, and then it'll express from there. But the exact how-tos, not very clear. So I want you both to know you're in the right place by not specifically knowing. But this is the universe saying, hey, it's time to know. It's time to really get in touch with ourselves and be prepared to nurture ourselves any which way that we might go down the wrong path. Now, the last thing I want to point out for y'all is that Mercury in Sagittarius does mean that things might get a little sticky in regards to trust and intimacy, for one. But mostly it's going to be, I think, an issue where you are being concerned about your daily life and your health. For one, trust and intimacy does come from the changes in boundaries. But for two, you're a person who basically lives your life from a philosophical perspective. And as long as it's within the philosophy, you're willing to do it. Problem is, I think, again, the Scorpios need to come along, the Scorpio energy, and make things sharper. What do you believe specifically? What don't you believe specifically? And then give yourself some concrete evidence to support yourself if something should go wrong. And then there's the Scorpios. Scorpio, happy birthday to you, by the way. This is a very powerful year for you this birthday. It's going to be one that you probably remember for a lifetime. That's a good reason, not a bad reason. Scorpios are probably making the most changes out of all the zodiac because the energy is in Scorpio while we do this. You're the ones that you lend us your power, you lend us your opportunities, and we sort of take advantage of those moments to get ourselves into new places. And so it's really a nice teammanship between Scorpios and Tauruses all together. But now it's going to be very serious because Scorpios are ready to cut out like some really dark stuff out of them once and for all. They're more than ready to do it. They're really good with blood, that sort of thing. So that's going to be a problem. It's just that they need some emotional nurturing and help with that, I think. So if you're with them, be sure to do that. So you're cutting out, basically, Scorpio, bad behavior. Certain behavior you started to get in the habit of because you were being treated poorly at the time, and the person who caused it went away, but the behavior stayed. That's all it is. And so it's just time to grow past some of these things for you. It's going to help you with your health. It'll help you with a lot of things by having this under your belt, so to speak. But it'll also do a lot of things for you as far as health, energy, et cetera. I've seen you guys kind of slumping in your seat a little bit energetically the last few weeks. I think this is going to be the time of Scorpio to change behavior and move forward, finally, being not grumpy. Now, that said, there's other things going on. The full moon in Taurus. The full moon in Taurus for you will be a kind of a rebuild, a new investment in marriage and partnership. So you may find that you take it to the next notch with your honey. Maybe it's a cool time to celebrate. Or maybe the two of you work on a project together that turns out to be something of your legacy together. But it's a very important full moon. And remember, most of the time, Scorpio comes with a Scorpio because they both have the same values. So it's good to know what those values are and to, of course, value them. Speaking of value, there's also Mercury moving into Sagittarius. Finally, we're here, Scorpio. It's now time for you to think differently about money. Put your plans into place. I would not do any more than one a day because you have many different things, and get on with it when it comes to figuring out where our place is in the world, basically our connection with money and manifestation. And that's exactly what's going to be happening. You're going to be focusing on your finances, changing the philosophy of how you sell stuff, why you sell stuff, the approach of selling stuff, and really a full beginning of an upgrade when it comes to money and also your materialism. Sagittarius, you were doing some interesting work, some shadow work actually this month. You have the sun in the 12th house, and that's where it is for Scorpio when you're a Sagittarius. That means that all of your boundaries are actually determined subconsciously, which is kind of good. It seems like you're subconscious a lot of times. I'll tell you that right now. When you go wandering off of that person, you never see him again, right? That kind of thing. But it is really probably, situations made in heaven that you trust immediately and give them a different access code than you would give another human being. I wouldn't stay close to the idea that you will never meet a human being, right? It's all going to be aliens. That's maybe possible. Who knows? But either way, I think you're going to have good silverware. right? That's going to be a good thing to do. Now, for the Sages, your Scorpio energy has to do with lines with fear. And believe it or not, you're drawing lines when it comes to your past life and karma. So if you're taking the course right now, bravo. You cannot do better for yourself than those two together. What you're learning is really how where you stop and someone else begins in society. You're really good at twinkling. You're really good at making everyone twinkle back at you. But no one really knows, is it for you they're twinkling, or are they twinkling for the people behind you, right? You're not quite sure. And so you're figuring that out this particular month. One of the things that you're going to come to realize is that your personality can have different choices. That's one big thing. The other big thing you're going to realize, I think, with the sun in Scorpio, is that your lifestyle has to be one that is basically one that can support all of your changes of faith, and that is always unwavering in itself. So the way Sagittarius can tour around the whole planet and do all these fun things all the time and not get depressed they're not in their own bedroom is that they have their own bedroom waiting for them. They have that whole foundation set up anyways. So when they get back, they can truly relax from their trips. So it's now time, I think, for you to draw some lines about what you have faith in with your heart and what you don't. Let your heart be the choice of that. What you don't have faith in, just say, I don't have faith in this. And that's it. The universe will actually take care of it from there. And you might imagine what, the two people you chose would react to this. Who knows? I hope they like it. But really, ultimately, I think you're going to find that when people watch this video, they feel like you were yourself. I mean, I don't have a full understanding, but definitely felt grounded to me. So to wrap this up with Sagittarius is, y'all are now in a place with this Mercury moving into your first house that once your faith is in place, you can now begin to carry out those ideas you've been holding on to for a long time. Sagittarius have so many good ideas that they don't act on. And what's sort of happened in the last year is you've had the issues that keep you from acting removed. And with Mercury and Sag, just the last little piece of what that is. So give yourself permission to think it over, to think it again, to rethink it. But if your heart says we're done, we're done. You may very well be. The project and the mission may be over. It may be coming into a new form in just a few weeks. So be easy on your mind, but I have a feeling you'll be out narrating as you always do anyways. Capricorns. Capricorn, I'm interested in watching you right now. The transformations you're making are going to make things so much better than they ever have been in the past. I'll tell you why. First of all, it starts with Scorpio. Scorpio energy is what you use to separate yourself from the world. And you're very picky. There are people you like, there's people you don't like. And you are good at keeping the people you don't like away from you. And you're good at keeping the people you do like with you. So you really are sharp in that regard. You're also a person, with this whole back and forth of things, you're a person that when the moon goes full in Taurus, you're going to find that your heart lights up like it never has before. That your heart is just wanting some fun and wanting some candy, finally. And this is actually the vibration that I've been concerned I haven't seen in Capricorns, is that you are now, with Uranus having gone through this space, should be in love with yourself and in love with the options that you have. You may make mistakes, but you always walk out with all the tools, owning the equipment and the office stuff. Like, you always end up richer from any kind of layoff. So if you found yourself laid off and took a break, I'd say it's time to go back to the drawing board. It's now time for you to start to sketch where you're going to be going and what you're doing, what you want to do, and let people interact with you so you can be kind of researched on it and have some support. And that's where things are going. Everyone's just coming together and doing it together, if that makes sense. So with Mercury moving into Sagittarius, this is actually going to be a lot of subconscious dipping. You're going to find that you have to really meditate to get to the clarity of where certain things started. You're so good at just letting things roll on autopilot that you have in many ways let your spiritual thoughts be all autopiloted. And so you're a little behind on, data boys and things like that will complement yourself and bring yourself into your best light. So you really are, I think, doing the right thing, even though you're out of his favorite candy bar. So last thing I want to say, I think it's very important here, Sag, is that with the full moon in Taurus, your heart may have to let go of something to get something. You're a person that tends to want lots of things. And so sometimes it's not a matter of yes or no. It's a matter of which one do you want first. So think in those terms as you go through the full moon. Aquarius, the age of Aquarians. You are going through a lot of change yourself right now energetically. Now, the sun in Scorpio for you has to do with where you draw the line with people in the world. You are kind of the sharpest to people when you are right and they are wrong. And it's because you act like a Scorpio to pull those things off. You are learning how to draw your own emotional personal boundaries and to also draw the ones that you think are fit for the world and to go ahead and do that. Your opinion is usually most of us there on the way to the same conclusion anyways. So I think it'll help you with your energy to stay grounded in that purple light. And of course, I don't know if you know this, but there's Saint Germain and the purple flame, also interesting, can help be incredibly helpful to Aquariuses as well. But Scorpio for you is, again, how you see the world. And it looks like you've been seeing it in very black and white terms. So you're about to go into that billion shades of gray, right? And I think on top of that, you're going to reconsider maybe a little bit of what the commitment is for, or how much each person owns, or what type of thing. So I'm picking up psychically that there'll be some final negotiations with that for that to be completed, but that Sagittarius are overall going back into the world. They're finding themselves back in the game, if you will, and not alone, with all those dasher meals. Now, with Mercury and Sagittarius, I think it's important for you to understand, that first of all, you're already a philosopher kind of personality, right? We know that about you. But what you may not know is that, you tend to be that way about all things in work and all things in leadership. You lead through philosophy. And that's absolutely fine that you do that if I think you have clear boundaries about what you can tolerate and not tolerate in the world. So it would be a nightmare if Sagittarius were all over the map with their career and had no worldly connections right now, so waiting to be dumped by the world. That would be a worse case scenario than this one, which is that you're very clear about your philosophy of your career, where you want to go with that, but you're not necessarily sure where it's going to go. But you're a person that's just keep whistling, keep walking, and not turn back. And so I think that probably by mid-December, Aquarius will probably get some sort of a deal they cannot refuse, because it does look like it is taking off for you now. It really is, and we need your philosophy. Pisces, this is a very interesting season for you as well, considering all the karma you've been clearing this year. Major amounts. So you are, you're gonna fly like a bird and sting like a bee, as they used to say, energetically, and that's not very Piscean, now is it? The Sun in Scorpio for you is something that you have got to get under wraps. Okay, this is where you draw an emotional boundary. Quite simply, wherever you draw an emotional boundary, you can find that you have to uphold that boundary, and that boundary has to be maintained by you, only by you, and it is the secret to you really turning your back on your karma. Your karma comes in emotionally, and so you have to be very aware to where you feel your feelings, but you don't go down that rabbit hole. You don't let yourself turn the corner and take a shortcut, which turns out to be a long cut. Just be patient and be in that particular space, and step outside the car if it's too difficult for you. Now, as we go into the month and we have the full moon in Taurus, what we're going to find here is that you are now endowed with this whole new way of thinking. And I think you're going to just be given a whole belief structure of how to think. Not kidding. It's going to be Taurus's, basically. We're going to hand it off to you, I think, is what's going to happen. And you're going to energetically, I think, now start to get to the brass tacks of how your thoughts can build you up or they can break you down, one of the two. But they're always doing one of the two. There's never not, okay, in that regard. And so with that said, when you've gone into society and you let yourself be honest with the world about who you are, to what degree, you've had a lot of remarks from me or from around the house that these little pads that we use are missing, right? But what this means for you is kind of a similar thing. Energetically, you've always been sort of to blame for other things that are missing. That things aren't right. You're the karmic transit. You're the karmic person. And so I think what's going to happen now that's so significant is that rather than sitting there and trying to rewrite your story to suit, all the anomalies of who you are, I think you're now going to just live in the truth of who you are, right? And live in the story of who you are and allow that story to kind of take over on its own and live on its own. So you could say that codependent Pisces are in an interesting moment where by taking advantage of the full moon and thinking differently, they can plug out of their codependence with relationships around knowledge and wisdom, and they can really begin to do what they do best, which is make up their own religion. I think that's what's going to happen for the end of the Pisces cycle. Y'all make up your own. All right, friends, that wraps up our show for this week's Soul Horoscopes. A reminder to you, 40 days of truth and purpose. It's not too late. You don't have to take it precisely on the days we say. We have a 40-day program that, using your astrology, your natal chart, and also some good old journaling in your journal, you will get to the core of what your truth is, and you'll understand for once and for all what your purpose is. I would say that a majority of the people that went last year did not know their purpose in the beginning, and they left fully knowing their purpose when they left. So this is something that absolutely works, especially for you, baby boomers are now going back to work again, right? Come on down and talk to us. There's a lot of changes. Things are more automated, and there's things you ought to know. But I'm rooting for you no matter what. All right, friends, that's all we have for this week. We'll be back 1 week from now, and we're so excited to be in front of you. So make sure you show here up at the right time, and we'll be here to party with you next week. Until then, I love you. Live, love, be.
Coming up next week on Serious Joy TV. This week on Leading Out Loud, Sensei Christopher Witecki and psychic medium Scott Cruz are setting the example for how to build better boundaries. Join the conversation this Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Then join us for ASTRO MINGLE on Friday night, featuring special guest Karen A. Anderson, a pet loss specialist, #1 best-selling author, and coach. The best in enlightened entertainment, only on Serious Joy TV.